Welcome to the PayTrace Studio. My name is Sam Johnson, and I am joined by our president, Greg Castro. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you for having me.
I am so happy that you're in town, and you let me pick your brain for a few minutes. It's been a while since we've done this.
I know. I'm glad I get invited back.
Well, we do want to share a little bit of kind of insight into, kind of what's going on out there in the payment space, and really just want to pick your brain for a lot of our customers or even people that might be looking at PayTrace and saying, is this somebody that we want to work with? So with that said, I want to ask you a little bit about payments, just in general. Payments oftentimes is overlooked or considered table stakes for businesses, kind of like a commodity, right?
Very much so, yes.
So with that said, dispute that, right? How does payments add value to a business?
Right, and we're speaking B2B payments.
We can speak B2B, general. Okay. I'm open to anything.
So the one huge difference when I ask the question B2B versus just your standard retail payments.
Sure.
I grew up in payment business for, it's been over 30 years now, I believe. Mm-hmm. So payments back then was simply just a terminal, maybe a knuckle buster, a simple transaction, real time, just interaction with me buying a candy bar, let's say, and I'm in and out the door.
Right.
In the B2B world, payments, outside of saying integrations into your ERP systems, right, there is so much more that's available to a CFO, controller, owner, entrepreneur of a business now.
Sure.
We provide a ton more than just the rails to process a credit card. Right, there's multiple forms of payments. It's not just credit cards anymore. It's ACH, FTP, FedNow. I mean, there's also RTP. There's all stuff that's going on that I'm not even sure what it means sometimes.
I like to think of it's not just check anymore.
No, right. And those has introduced certain complexities to a business owner. Do I accept? Do I not accept? Am I creating friction for my buyers? All of those things now that used to be what's your rate are now is what problems can you solve for me?
Okay.
Right? Can you bring efficiencies to the business that may not have been here yesterday?
That's interesting. So I want to kind of, you mentioned differences between like the knuckle buster and, I'm
old.
I wasn't going to say it. But with that said, the consumer driven experience, right, from my perspective, as just an individual that buys stuff, is I go out there, it's seamless, it's quick, it's convenient, right? How does that play into the B2B space?
The same vernacular, because whether it's a $50,000 invoice or a $5 invoice, you want that interaction to be seamless. You want it to be transparent, you want it to be quick. When you and I buy a $5 candy bar, I guess that's an expensive candy bar, but it's $5, you're paying $5, you may pay some city taxes other than that, but it's a very transparent transaction.
Sure.
When you have a $25,000 invoice, a lot of times there is an invoice attached to it that shows all sorts of other fees, reconciliation of that total cost, et cetera.
Right.
An owner, a business owner, supplier, you and I work with suppliers here at PayTrace. We want them to be able to interact with their buyers, aka the consumer, in a transparent fashion.
Okay.
Right? We're building tools to help them distribute their invoices to a customer so they can interact with their business in a seamless, let's call it very transparent way, where there's no hidden BS behind the scenes.
You were mentioning buying a $5 candy bar. What does that look like? Let's say a $50,000 invoice, and I get that on my table, and I just want to pay that off as quickly and simple as possible, like the candy bar. Is that achievable in B2B?
Yes, it is. Obviously, we're not shaking hands and signing invoices in person in the business-to-business world for the most part. I don't want to say it probably never happens, but yes, that is what we try to do. And also on top of that, when a buyer receives an invoice via email or however they may see that, they want to interact with it in real time. So that's what you and I would say if we're on the phone with a potential customer. That is our way of interacting with your buyer in real time. Because within our invoice, you can click through that invoice and interact with it in real time and use a credit card or an ACH transaction and pay that invoice in full. Heck, if the supplier wants to allow you to pay in parts, you can partially pay that invoice.
Sure.
And then have a remaining balance that, again, of course, is automated, and then you can interact with it later. But that is what you and I say is the same as buying that really expensive $5 candy bar. Yes.
And I think one thing that does also separate is when you're buying that $5 candy bar, you're going to have that same experience at any convenience store.
Yes.
With B2B, it's not always that simple.
No.
Right? Every buyer has their own preferences, and every supplier has their own systems, their own business management ecosystem. So that's why it's especially important to find that solution that fits with what you're doing.
Yes, and the complexity is what you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Not every business operates the same. Very
Exactly.
few at all operate the same.
So I guess in that case, when, let's just say somebody's currently prospecting a new payments provider, or they're looking for something better, what do you think are some of the most important things that somebody should look for in a payments provider?
Having your payments provider address a majority of your problems, let's call them, or challenges, and they're not necessarily problems, but they're challenges that business may have, whether it's I have massive resource constraints because it's manually done and I need multiple SAMs on staff in order to get this done, right? And so that is a potential complexity or a challenge that they're trying to fulfill.
Okay.
A payments provider, just don't focus on the rates, right? Which is the old stuff that we always, hey, I'll lower your rates by 5 basis points and 2 cents. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
6 months later, someone follows me up with preaching the same thing and la, la, la. Where we are a whole lot different, not even remotely close to the same thing, where we're trying to solve all of the complexities that are on the table. Now, can I solve all of them? Chances are probably not. But can we solve a majority of them? Or if we prioritize those complexities and challenges, let us tackle the top ones, right, that help address the business, that are buyers' business, and help them drive more efficiencies for themselves and profitabilities, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one thing that stands out is that you mentioned we're not looking at a cost perspective. At least we are, but that's not the end all be all. It's really the solutioning of it.
Absolutely.
And it's being more of a trusted consultant rather than kind of that old-fashioned salesy, right?
Right. I always say when we come in and solve the problems in my radial flyer wagon that I'm pulling behind me, that has all the payment stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you competitive rates. I'm going to deposit your transactions. You're going to that's
there.
That's what table stakes. That is exactly what that is. And our worthy rivals that are out there, they do all of that just like we do. I'm sure they all do it really well.
Yeah.
But how you address the business needs, the complexities that CFO, controller, owner's faced with, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's how you can really differentiate your solution.
Love it.
Yeah.
Greg, I appreciate you taking your time today. If you'd like to learn more about PayTrace, we've got some really great resources in the description on this video, and I look forward to doing this again sometime in the near
Likewise,
future.
buddy. Thank you very much.
Cool.